Hello. So today we are going to chat about choices and mistakes. So I find that so often we people, coworkers, family avoid making choices for fear of making a mistake. And in a previous conversation, I talked about making mistakes and the fear of making mistakes and trying to avoid mistakes. But I want to kind of build on that and go a little further on that today because how many choices are we avoiding because we fear making a mistake or we're worried about making a mistake? So, how much life are we avoiding living because we are afraid to make a choice that could potentially lead to a mistake? So, don't you think that that pattern keeps us very limited and very confined? And, you know, yes, it probably keeps us safe, but what if we would still be safe making a different choice? So that also ties in with change. We are so afraid and worried and stressed that a choice will lead to a change into an unknown, which will end up being worse than what we're already dealing with or where we're already stuck at. And so time and time again, people avoid making a choice because they are worried, afraid, stressed about that choice causing change, which then, what if the change is worse than what you're already dealing with? So, I'd like to take a moment just to ponder this for a minute because who decides that the change is bad? Who decides that what you're experiencing now is worse than what you were experiencing before? Who sets that dial? Who sets that gauge? We do. And the people around us that we listen to do. So even if we make a choice that leads to what we believe is a mistake, which then causes a change that we feel is worse than what we had going on before, it's all in how we perceive it. And what if that choice actually leads to an open door through what you're perceiving as a mistake and through what you're perceiving as a change that is worse or bad or detrimental or more stressful? It all leads to an open door for the opportunity to learn, grow, and evolve. So I'm here to help you see choice in a different light, see mistakes in a different light, and see change in a different light because I don't think we give ourselves enough credit to make intelligent, thoughtful, aware decisions. And if we don't, and the poop hits the fan, then that's an opportunity to learn and to realize that maybe we have our blinders on. Maybe we're not as connected to our heart and to our, instincts and our intuition as we thought we were. And maybe it's the opportunity to realize, oh, that did not turn out how I had envisioned it. That did not turn out how I wanted it to be. I guess that means I have to take a step back, learn a little bit more, figure some things out, and then proceed again. But the key in all of this is don't don't limit yourself. Don't hold yourself back. Don't pen yourself up. Don't close yourself in and chain yourself to some immobile object that will never move, never grow, never shift position, because then you're kind of stale and it leads to rotting and you have no mobility and no freedom. So I probably make too many choices. That could be one of my learning opportunities is I'm always choosing, making another choice here, making another choice there, and I'm almost, going in too many different directions rather than focusing on one or two. There's just all this opportunity around all the time, and that's probably where I run myself into trouble is I'm making too many choices, which then I start to feel spread too thin and I'm going in too many directions. And in that instance, it's time for me when I take some time to just sit down and look in front of me, sometimes I realize, okay, Shannon, you got to take a step back and you just have to finish this, package this up, work on this, adjust this, add to this before you continue to choose and make choices and move forward. So maybe that is also a reflection of you. It's hard to say, right? We're usually either on this end of the spectrum or we're on this end of the spectrum. But the key is always to find the balance, find the happy medium. So I would like to take a moment just to help you tune in and get connected and see what you see, feel what you feel. So I'd like you to go ahead and take a couple deep breaths and close your eyes. And I'm going to ask you a couple questions which will open the inner doors for you to gain more connection, more communication, and more awareness of this topic today and where you're at on the spectrum. Okay? I'd like you to connect with the image or the representation of your inner higher self. So your instinctual self, your intuitive self, your creative self, your just a version of you that isn't bogged down by life. We all have it inside of us. We just don't often always connect with it or listen to it. So allow yourself to imagine connecting with your higher self. Okay? And I'm going to speak to your higher self on your behalf. Higher self, do I avoid choice or do I make too many choices? Am I always choosing and jumping around, or am I avoiding choice and staying stuck or staying immobile, or like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like mossy. Is there a little bit of moss because you haven't moved with any choices for a bit? Okay, so inner self, where do I fit? What's most true for me with this situation? Now, inner self, if I'm, depending where I am, where you're at, like depending where I'm at with my choices, what is that leading me to? Maybe you have an image, maybe you have a message too many choices leads to scattered and worn too thin, but not enough choices leaves you stale and stagnant. Inner self, what is one area of my life where it would be very beneficial for me to either choose more, make more choice, or to choose less and just take a step back and process for a bit? Okay, so allow your inner self to give you some insights and some information and maybe a light bulb or two. Okay. So thank your inner self for the opportunity to gain an understanding of where you're at and what could become more balanced in the area that came up for you today. And take a couple deep breaths. And I just want to reiterate the message for today. Our choices are not mistakes. They're choices. Our choices lead us to whatever that choice leads us to. But it takes us in a direction of movement, whether it's forward movement, backwards movement, or lateral movement. But the key is at least we're moving. Now, the other piece of this is that wherever we're at is where we are, depending on our choices, how we've viewed those choices, and how much we beat ourselves up for those choices. Do you begin to not trust yourself because of the choices? If a choice leads you in a direction that you are not happy being, all that means is that you have more to learn. There's something else to figure out before you can make a different choice that leads you in the direction that you're content and happy and thriving in. And if you're like me, sometimes you have to just sit down and look at all the choices that you've been making and realize that you cannot conquer the mountain when you're only running on like half of a foot, because your other toes and your fingers are all going in different directions. So there's beauty and value in assessing all of these choices and cleaning some of them up, working more on others, and just trying to, again, find that balance, find that happy place. What can you manage? What can you handle and succeed at and become, whether you learn or you find success, one or the other. You're either going to learn or you're going to find success. But there's something to be said for finishing the project, seeing it through, wrapping things up, fully learning all there is to learn with that project or with that choice or with that relationship or whatever it is before you jump and run to the next thing. So I am going to be wrapping up some of my choices, going further with some of my choices, learning more about some of my choices, but ultimately my goal is, work with what I already have, help it flourish, help it grow, give it some water, give it some vitamins. You can't grow, what's that saying? You can't grow a crop on infertile soil. So I gotta spruce up some of my soil of all these seeds that I've planted and just see where that takes me. So in life, in health, and in career, it's all applicable to all of it. So whatever is coming up for you as I talk about this topic, that's where it fits for you. That's where this topic belongs for you. But don't limit yourself to, oh, she's just talking about health, or oh, she's just talking about work. Oh, no, no. Talking about life. So thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon. Bye.